Hi, I'm Benjamin Altshuler, and I'm here in New York City as part of the Classics Conclave, American Philological Association Oral History Project. Today I'm speaking with Roger Bagnall, the Leon Levy Director and Professor of Ancient History at the Institute for the Study of the Ancient World at New York University, and Professor Emeritus and Adjunct Senior Research Scholar at Columbia University. Professor Bagnall is a world-renowned papyrologist and arguably the greatest papyrologist that the Americas have ever produced. His research focuses on the social and economic history of Hellenistic, Roman, and late antique Egypt. He has published extensively about the social, economic, administrative, religious, and cultural history of Greco-Roman Egypt and the late antique world, in addition to his far-reaching works on papyrology. Professor Bagnall is also the editor of the Oxford Handbook of Papyrology. Professor Bagnall, for my first question. You've done a lot of work with artifacts and papyrus. How do you describe the experience of actually interacting with a piece of paper that someone has written on versus reading it typed up in a book?
You are discovering something that somebody hasn't done before. Nobody has read this for 1,500 years or 1,800 years or whatever. And that's just a totally different experience. It's also not kind of pre-digested. You don't have all those helpful signposts like accents and breathings and spaces to tell you where the words divide and how to go look it up in the dictionary if you don't know it. It's just a string of letters. So it's like doing a puzzle in many ways, and I kind of like puzzles, so that's fun. But it is that feeling of being the first in a very long time to see something that is just a completely different experience. The two almost don't seem to me related in any way.
You said you were the director of an archaeological project in Egypt. What's field work like, and how is it different from looking at something in the classroom?
It's very different, actually. I'm a late-in-life convert to field work. It was the kind of thing that I never found it easy to do during the years when we had children at home, for example. But it's immensely stimulating. The natural character of papyrology is simply intensified in the field, because not only has nobody seen this thing for 1,500 years, it was just brought out of the ground today. Right? Nobody has even laid eyes on it until a few minutes ago, practically. And somebody at the dinner table is going to ask you about what they found today in the field and that they brought back to you in the house and said, hey, read this. So at the dinner table, they want to know. So it's extreme papyrology, right? And that's very, very stimulating. But it has another side to it as well, which is the relating of the artifacts to their context. And that I find enormously interesting, that this was not just found anywhere. It wasn't found in a cabinet. It was found in a deposit that had something below it and something on top of it. And you want to know, why was it there? How did it get there? What does that mean?
How have you found the writing process? Is it as stimulating as being in the field?
This perhaps was the proof that I'm not an archaeologist, that I actually enjoy writing. My mother was a high school English teacher, and so I was trained to write competently from an early age, and I learned the rules of English grammar and all that kind of thing. I had a couple of very good English teachers in high school, and that helped solidify the home training. So I was already totally comfortable with writing by the time I went away to college, and I actually enjoy it. Right? To sit down and try to get your thoughts into a logical order and explain in coherent fashion what you mean and why you mean it, I think that's fun.
How do you think computer technology has aided your study of ancient papyri? Has it helped or perhaps hurt your work?
Oh, computers have transformed papyrology for the better. I would say in two really obvious, simple ways, probably gradually moving in more complicated, interesting ones. But the one is that you're able to search the texts. And so you get a little fragment that once upon a time you would have ignored because it was too much work. Today you can just search a few scraps of text and you see immediately what it is and what's been lost. And that enables you to do all sorts of things you couldn't have done. You can also get lots of data and organize it in various ways and so on. Just do lots of studies that would have been impossible. The other is digital images. And the availability of digital images has moved papyrology away from being a purely text-oriented field to being more object-oriented, thinking of the papyrus as an artifact. That's been a really interesting transformation, far from complete at this point, but very interesting, causing people to be much more conscious of the embeddedness of the ancient text in ancient society. How did people use these things? That's been a fascinating transformation. It's still in the midst of going on. The older generation has only partly bought into this, but when I see the younger people at work on it, it's just really extraordinary.
If you could spend a day in any period to feel, see, and experience firsthand what you've been reading about on papyri, where do you want to go?
Alexandria in the reign of Ptolemy II. I don't think there'd be any doubt in my mind. Early enough in the history of Alexandria that you're not yet into some of the politically fraught periods when it's falling apart and there are riots I might get killed in or something like that. But still early enough that you see it developing and see something of the freshness of the early Hellenistic period, with the library and the museum in place, the magnificent palace buildings, the colonnades, and the feeling for what this society was like. You know, how many Egyptians were there, in fact, in Alexandria? How far was it really a Greek city? How far was it Greek superficially and Egyptian under the hood? How much Egyptian bric-a-brac had the Ptolemies, in fact, already brought from Heliopolis, and where was it set up? What kind of Greek were they speaking? This would be bliss.